The 10th greatest Mega Drive game of all time, maybe not what you were expecting. Jungle Strike is an isometric chopper game. You got a hook that comes out of the chopper. You can pick things up and transport things around to complete the missions. There's something weirdly chill about it. Chill. Because it doesn't have any in-game music. You just have the sounds of the ballistics and the chopper blades. And so it was different from all the other kind of chaotic platform games. So I did like the pacing of this game. I think there was only 3 different types of shot. You have the Vulcan chain gun, you have a missile, and then you have the heavy missile. And obviously you had to be strategic, conserving your ammo. And this is way better than the prequel Desert Strike. It just looked better. I like the green aesthetic of the jungle. Better execution all round. The sound effects are beefier. The difficulty is definitely better pitched in this one. I remember the prequel and the first game in the series, Desert Strike, just being a little bit too difficult. And Jungle Strike, although it certainly isn't easy, you could kind of get further into the game. And so it was just a little bit more rewarding. So I would say the 10th best Mega Drive game of all time is Jungle Strike. I think this is a pretty worthy inclusion on the list, although it's perhaps a little bit unexpected. It's definitely a high quality game, and if you haven't played it, I certainly recommend to check that out. So the 9th best Mega Drive game of all time, this is another kind of deep cut. This is called Forgotten Worlds. Now, this is from 1988, believe it or not, and this was originally released in the arcade by Capcom on Capcom's CPS-1 board. So this is an inferior port of the arcade game. It's a little bit rough around the edges, what with it being one of the first Mega Drive games in existence. But there is nothing quite like it, and even though it's very rough around the edges, the underlying concept and ideas are still very cool and they shine through. So this game, you take control of a bunch of space marines. You got a black space marine, you got a white space marine, and they got cool armor and cool army fatigues. And they fly around, and you get these weapons from the shop that you find in every level. So as soon as the shop pops up, both players scramble towards it. And the shop has really, really cool weapons, and it adds replay value to the game. So you wonder, what the hell do these weapons do? And you just have to try them out. There's no way to test them. You just got to buy them. And so there's an element of strategy introduced to the game. And it kind of teaches kids about resources and how to save your money and invest it wisely. Because if you blow your money early in the game as opposed to saving it, you don't get the best weapons. It's very unusual looking, it has an unusual design, and it has quite wacky music indeed. The music is very memorable and very original, and back then I feel sound designers and musicians were a little bit freer to kind of test things out and try something new. So a lot of original stuff here that didn't quite forge a legacy that was found in other games, but is definitely worth experiencing if you revisit Forgotten Worlds. This is a 2-player game, and it's great fun in 2-player. I remember playing this with my cousin just over and over and over again. It's one of the first games I think of when I think of the best Mega Drive games. Again, it's not an obvious choice, but if you've never played it, I certainly recommend it. If it looks a bit shonky to you, why not emulate the arcade version? But there you go, the 9th best Mega Drive game of all time, Forgotten Worlds by Capcom. So moving to number 8, the 8th best Mega Drive game of all time. Yes, it is a sports game, John Madden Football. Now, I had to pick a sports game for the Mega Drive. The Mega Drive helped popularize licensed sports games. That's one of the ways the Mega Drive became so incredibly successful. It kind of stole a march on Nintendo by releasing these licensed sports games, and EA released loads of them. They released PGA Tour Golf, they released FIFA Soccer, and of course they released Madden games. So it's very, very difficult to choose between the sports games, but I feel Madden has this really good balance of strategy and spontaneity. So the strategy has a kind of slow pace where you have to calculate your decisions and plays on the pitch. And then that's juxtaposed by the spontaneous play when you actually have the ball in the heat of the moment and you have to decide whether to run with it or whether to throw it. even for an Englishman like myself, who is obsessed with football, and football is the one with the round ball, my American friends, football is the be-all and end-all of sports to an Englishman. Even for someone like me, this was very, very engrossing indeed. And I found it was better playing this than actually watching NFL. The controls were great. They were very, very slick and very fluid. And although PGA Tour Golf comes a close second in terms of sports games by EA, and I think third would have to be their NHL game, you'd have to say this is the best, because no other sports game by EA on the Mega Drive could make you scream with excitement when you pulled off a legendary play and you didn't even really plan it. You were going to throw it, but then you read the field and you just went for it and you ran with the ball and you scored a touchdown by running across the pitch, especially if the clock was ticking down and you were losing before that and it was the final touchdown of the game. You'd be running around the house screaming. So this was an amazing sports game. They made loads of sequels to this. They're still making these games today. And this was back in the beginning when licensed sports games were totally new. You got to love the pixel art. You got to love the luminous green grass. There was no music in it, so you had this kind of white noise that was supposed to represent the crowd. And they had bone-crunching sounds when you tackled each other. And they were kind of hilarious. They obviously had fun with the sound effects. When you get tackled, the player screams and he go, hoo, hoo, like this. And then on rare occasions, you could injure one of the players. And then an ambulance would come on the screen and it would run over some of the players. So there was this weird kind of darkly comedic element that they somehow managed to shoehorn into an NFL game. But this was really, really excellent. Another great American football game was the curiously titled Bill Walsh College Football. That was another good one. But I've got to go with the one that started it all, John Madden Football on the SEGA Genesis. An amazing game and the 8th best game of all time on the classic SEGA console. So, the 7th best Genesis game of all time. We had to pick an RPG. It is Beyond Oasis, Story of Thor. So this is influenced by Zelda, but it's like an adult Zelda with a wicked manga style. And what makes this really, really special is Yuzo Koshiro's involvement. Yuzo Koshiro, if you don't know, is arguably, and certainly in my opinion, the greatest video game composer of all time. And he made a video game development company, I believe it was called Ancient. And that company, prior to this game's release in 1994, created definitely one of the best Genesis games of all time, known as Streets of Rage. His development company, Ancient, made Streets of Rage 2 in collaboration with various other Sega teams. This game, Story of Thor Beyond Oasis, is made solely by Yuzo Koshiro's development team, and so therefore it's kind of like a side-scrolling beat-em-up meets RPG. And not only any side-scrolling beat-em-up, you can tell that this is influenced directly by the people who made Streets of Rage 2. So if you take arguably the best side-scrolling beat-em-up of all time, Streets of Rage 2, and you convert it into a role-playing game, this is what you get. So the combat is so meaty and so satisfying, and extra weight is given to the combat because Yuzo Koshiro is composing it and doing the sound effects. So you get some of the same sounds used in the classic Streets of Rage 2, like the impact sound effects when you hit people or when you stab people. Oh man, it's just a great RPG with amazing sound effects, brilliant combat that I don't really think is matched in any other 2D RPG from this era. And to top it all off, you've got Yuzo Koshiro composing the entire soundtrack, and it's freaking unbelievable. The music in this game is just majestic. It's majestic. It evolves as it goes along, is delicate, there's a lot of vibrato, there's so much texture in the soundtrack. It's like Streets of Rage music, but reimagined with epic, romantic, operatic, orchestral, military battle DNA. There's range to the soundtrack. It's almost hypnotic. It really is spooky at times, menacing and foreboding at other times, uplifting. There's jazzy and kind of riffing parts to the soundtrack. There's a percolating kind of element to it. There's a lot of arpeggiators in it. And like a lot of Yuzo Koshiro games, I think nearly half of this game, the quality is in the soundtrack. Yuzo Koshiro was just a monster. He was an absolute monster composer at this time. And if this game was just the soundtrack, it would still be worth the money alone. It's not too difficult, like quite a lot of games on this list, so you can expect to get through it and enjoy the story. Highly recommended. I certainly think this is the best role-playing game on the Mega Drive and the 7th best game on the system. Now moving to number 6, the 6th best Sega Genesis game of all time, Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion. So man, Disney games at this time in the early 90s were absolutely incredible. They were beastly. It's not like today where you get this kind of mass market slop that they churn out to make a quick buck. They actually took so much care in the creation of these Disney games. Now, people might say that you should include Quackshot on this list. Quackshot is a similar game but starring Donald Duck, and it has more depth and it has a little bit of Metroidvania exploration elements to it where you have to backtrack to solve puzzles and things like that. But really, I think this is just the perfect Disney game. It's like it's from a real movie. It's all there. The hero narrative, the gemstones, saving the princess, the archetypes, the witch, the tricksters. The sound effects are really good. They're almost humorous. If you jump against the ceiling, you get this clonking sound like knocking on wood. So you can hear the sound of Mickey's skull clonking off the top of a cave and things like that, which is quite funny. And there's also this weird kind of Easter egg where Mickey Mouse kind of has a boner. Disney have been known to put these perverted Easter eggs into their intellectual property, and this game is no different. The music is excellent. The controls are just perfect. Everything feels just right in terms of the controls. The difficulty, you can complete it in one setting. It is a little bit challenging. You have to kind of dig in, and you probably need to play it quite a few times to work out how to kill some of the bosses, but it's not that difficult. But I think that makes it all the better. Back then, games didn't have to be these 80-hour monsters. They were these self-contained, fun experiences of graphics, sound, and gameplay. And it doesn't have to be long to be good. That's what she said. This is vintage Disney. Has a perfect story to it, like a Disney movie come to life. Just an amazing use of the Mega Drive Genesis hardware. So that is my 6th best Sega Genesis game of all time. Moving on to number 5, we've got NBA Jam. I believe this almost parody of basketball is the most successful arcade game of all time. This was a very good port to the Sega Genesis. It's very fluid. This game is still fun to play today. When I go back to England from Tokyo, usually for Christmas, and I get to hang out with my best mate Luke, we will probably play this game first before any other game. We can sit there and play it for hours. It's so simple, it's so addictive. It has famous rubber banding in it, meaning if you're winning, the losing team get a kind of boost, and the computer will do insane robbery. It will win the game by throwing it from across the court. This is the most successful arcade game of all time, and it's just still super fun today. And since it's so fun, even in 2025, it certainly warrants its place halfway up the greatest Genesis games of all time list. Moving up to number 4, the 4th greatest Sega Genesis game of all time. And I'm really excited to talk about this one. Can you guess what it is? Ghouls and Ghosts. Oh, baby, baby. Let me give you some music from this. Oh, the memories of this. Oh man, the memories of this freaking game. So this had to be high up the list. It had to be high up the list. So this is Japan's take on the armored knight hero's journey. Steel, sorcery, damsels, all of that. It's got the medieval aesthetic. It's one incorruptible man standing between us and the chaos. So the music is unbelievably good. This is a early Mega Drive game. This came out in the arcade first, and it's a great port of the arcade. Unlike Forgotten Worlds, earlier on in our list, this is a very faithful port. And as an early Mega Drive game, this just blew nearly everything else out of the water. Just seeing this in motion for the first time, you knew it was special. The graphics are colourful, chunky, memorable, fantastic. The creatures are creative. It's got loads of archetypal stuff in it, loads of archetypal monsters, mythological monsters that you might be familiar with, that kids and adults alike love. And it's freaking hard. It's super hard, but not hard in an unfair way. It's all calculated. Essentially, this is the OG FromSoft game. You like a bit of Elden Ring, you like a bit of Dark Souls. This is what a FromSoft game would be like if it were in 2D. It has this kind of purposefully, sadistically difficult stuff in it, and purposefully, ridiculously difficult design choices, which have made this the stuff of legend. This is the first game people really identified where after you finished it, it would send you back to the beginning to do it all over again, but even more difficult. And you had to finish it with this new weapon that ironically was actually kind of shitty. So famously difficult, very, very fun to play, and just a perfect package of graphics, sound, gameplay with very high difficulty indeed. Oh man, I look so fondly upon this game, more than any other in the list thus far. So it warrants its place this high up the list. If you haven't played it, you have to play it. Some would argue this is the best Ghouls and Ghosts type game ever released. I have finished Ghosts and Goblins, the predecessor, and got to the last boss of the sequel to this, which is Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which is awesome. But I have to say that this is the best one. Now we're moving to the top 3. These are the serious juggernauts, the behemoths, the heavy hitters of the Sega Genesis. What is the third best Sega Genesis game of all time? Well, bruv, it is Streets of Rage. Now, some might be asking why I haven't put Streets of Rage 2 here. And I'm going to explain that later on in this list. The logic will be explained. But Streets of Rage is the coolest side-scrolling beat-em-up ever made. And it has the greatest soundtrack probably to any video game ever made. It's definitely top 3 of all time. You cannot argue. Streets of Rage 1 and Streets of Rage 2, both of them have classic soundtracks on par with one another. A lot of people pick Streets of Rage 2. But for me, the first game, the one that started it all, that is the stuff of legend. That is the genius. That is the lightning in the bottle. To do a sequel after the first thing's successful, while not being easy, you can just follow the same formula and update it. But to just manifest a soundtrack like this out of nothing, Yuzo Koshiro deserves his status as arguably the greatest video game composer of all time. I just remember playing this, and like Beyond Oasis Story of Thor, nearly half of the game's quality comes down to the music. Although people recognize this as a classic soundtrack, I don't think people really realize exactly how much it is adding to the experience. This came out in the early 90s. At this time, the club scene was thriving. People were taking ecstasy. It was very hedonistic, and there was all these tunes that crossed over into the mainstream. And Yuzo Koshiro, when he made this, he was influenced by that club music and also some of the mainstream music that crossed over. And so he did his interpretation of it. As you know, Japanese people often take concepts from the West and at the very least make something very interesting with them, and at best improve upon them and or make something completely different. So while this had the flavor of the Western kind of club music, when it was manifested with the ironically beneficial limitations of the Sega Genesis Yamaha sound chip, it created this whole new thing that no one had ever really heard before. This kind of chip-tune club music with Japanese soul is just unbelievable. And there were other side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and I feel dirty leaving them out of this list. I felt I could only really include one because there were so many and they were all so similar. We left out Golden Axe. Golden Axe is great, the typical fantasy hero's journey of the warrior going out to kind of slay the tyrant. But this was just better than Golden Axe. And it also had better music than Golden Axe. And just aesthetically and stylistically, it was better. There was another side-scrolling game. It was hard to leave out. Altered Beast. Altered Beast was an arcade conversion. It was great. It was often packaged with the Sega Genesis when you bought it. And while that's also very good, this was just superior. I could have added Streets of Rage 2 to the list, but again, it was simply improving upon the genius of this highly original side-scrolling beat-em-up of the time. I've got a soft spot for it. So Streets of Rage, definitely one of the best side-scrolling beat-em-ups of all time, and it definitely has one of the best soundtracks of any 90s video games. So coming up to number 2, the second best Sega Genesis game of all time. Are you ready for this? It is, of course, what else could it be? What else could it be? Bro, come on now. Come on now. Come on now. What more do you need than this? I don't need to say anything. Mate. But I actually got tears in my eyes listening to this. It's, mate, the goosebumps. It's too, I'm overwhelmed with nostalgia. This is the perfect package. This is the showcase game for Sega. They had to make their own mascot. The Japanese are absolutely godlike at creating characters. Everyone wants to have some kind of character or mascot that enhances the brand and represents the brand and is a gateway to the brand. But imagine having that kind of pressure to create something like that. Basically, nobody can. Disney did it. A few other companies did it. If anyone's going to make a character that resonates with millions of people, it is Japan. The different prefectures have their own characters. Banks have their own characters. Of course, you have the video game characters. Your whole company is riding on it. Not only does the character have to be extremely popular, it has to create your legacy. To come up with something that rivals Mario, and not just rivals it, but kind of takes it in a new direction and becomes its own thing, is pretty much impossible. But they actually fucking went out and did it. Not only did they do that, the music, and not just the music generally across the game, but for the first fucking level, listen to it. For me, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 on the Sega Genesis is like the Michael Jackson's Thriller of the video game world. Everyone involved in the creation of this product set out from the start to make something that would change the game, where nothing less than perfection would have done. The character, the music, the graphics, the gameplay, the ideas, all of these stars aligned perfectly for this legendary game by Sega. And without this, Sega wouldn't be what it is today. And it wouldn't have been as successful as it was. Absolutely no doubt about it. This was the system seller. And people are going to ask again, why didn't you put the sequel in here? Where was Sonic 2? Again, using the same argument I used with Streets of Rage. Sonic 1 is better than Sonic 2 because it came from nothing. 2 just took what had been made in Sonic 1 and added some stuff to it. There's no real new gameplay to speak of in the second game. And to say a sequel is the best, for me, the sequel needs to have a net amount of quality that's only calculated from what is added to the first game, not from what's copied and borrowed from the first game. So while Sonic 2, it may be more confident and have a little more flair, and it's a bit easier, and you got the new character Tails, and it's extremely charming, don't get me wrong, and has amazing tunes. 1 is the real moment of genius that we need to celebrate. It's Sega's magnum opus. The crazy, awesome character design. It's like Japanese people made like their own version of Mickey Mouse or something. The world building, the Green Hill Zone, the music for all of the stages. The music is definitely the best in this one. The first zone there, Green Hill Zone, Marble Hill Zone, I can hear it in my head immediately. Spring Yard Zone, I can hear that as well. They're so catchy, as those songs. This game is freaking unbelievable, and no Sega top 10, let alone top 3, would be complete without, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog being in it. I just think it's sad over the years how they tried to change the character and modernize him too much, and they kind of made him skinnier and tried to make him cooler. This was definitely the best design, and in recent times they've gone a bit more back towards this, and I think that's exactly the right thing to do. But it's just sad that Sega could never continue this initial success as they went on and released different consoles. If you contrast Sonic's lifespan with Mario, it really, really makes you wonder what went wrong with Sega, or at the least it makes you respect how incredibly successful Nintendo were with extending the lifespan of their brand and building upon it and just keeping their success going. Nintendo managed to replicate the success of the very basic, classic platforming archetype Super Mario Brothers 30 years into the future. In 2025, they're still releasing Mario games and it's as popular as ever, but Sonic couldn't do that. They couldn't replicate the success, but we still have these classics. Sonic 1 really is as good as it gets, and at this point, it's an unequivocal high point for Sega, if not the highest point in their whole history. So, what is left? There's only one more game, and there's no way you are going to be able to guess what this game is, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, bruv. The best Sega Genesis game of all time is Toe Jam and Earl. I don't care what anybody says. Call me biased. Call it rose tinted. I don't care. Really, what made this special is me growing up with my brother and just playing this with my brother. Toe Jam and Earl was the best game ever for two brothers growing up. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis gave me the warmest memories playing with my brother that defined my personality. It was a shared experience, and it was a shared experience between the father who bought the console to bond with his son over stuff he likes, like PGA Tour golf and the sports games, and your siblings who stay up past bedtime to go on adventures with you. That's what this game represents, and that's what the Sega Genesis represents for me. So everyone, of course, has their favorite. I know you can't really argue Toe Jam and Earl is the best game of all time objectively, but for me it is. This has the warmest memories, and it just is really freaking cool, very original, a real deep cut. If I play a little bit of it here for you, the music is really special, super funky, very original. At the time, nothing sounded like that. So in this game, you're a bunch of aliens who are crash landed on Earth. And there's a deep truth in the story, which is humans are actually terrifying and very, very destructive and very, very dangerous. So ironically, it's not the aliens who are the threat, it's the humans. And the humans are parodies of different kinds of people you'll find throughout society, like woman with a shopping basket who's not looking where she's going, who'll knock you over, and stuff like that. And in the game, you're hunting presents, and of course, kids love presents. This is getting quite meta, isn't it? Because you might have got this as a present for Christmas or for your birthday, and then you're looking for more presents. You see them there within the game, and the presents are random every single time, so you have to keep on opening different presents to find out what's in there. But some presents are bad and they'll mess you up. And then you really don't want to get the randomizer present, which will just change them all, because then you'll have to start from scratch and you won't know what the good presents are. It's an exploration game, so the aliens have to find the pieces of their ship that have been scattered around the Earth. But it's such a trip because the Earth, you can see the edge of the Earth, so flat Earthers obviously love this game, and you can actually fall off it. And if you fall off, and enemies sometimes bump you off, you go all the way back down to the previous level, and the levels are tiered vertically. My favourite enemies in this is the boogeyman, or the bogeyman there. The worst enemy. Look at him creeping around. He's faster than you. So it's kind of luck of the draw whether you get away from him or not, and hopefully you got a few good presents. There's a really cool secret level 0 where if you fall all the way back down to first level and just use a special item to get to the bottom left of the map, you can fall off the map again, and in there's kind of Hawaiian babes in grass skirts in a hot tub, which is just amazing. Don't gaslight me that the 90s wasn't the best time, because it just was. And it's just really goddamn cool. I have to say as well, ToeJam and Earl features one of the best endings to a video game I have ever experienced. You know when you finish a video game and you get that disappointing ending, you just wanted a little bit more after all the time that you've invested into it. ToeJam and Earl goes above and beyond. You get a whole level to walk around for the ending, and you get to speak to all the aliens back on your home planet, and it's just fun and friendly, and it only ends when you hit the power switch. So man, shout out to the ending of ToeJam and Earl. I think it's the greatest game ending of all time. ToeJam and Earl, if you never played it, you should play it. You should definitely play it. Try to play it with a friend if you can. Deep classic, and for me, the best Sega Genesis game of all time. So I hope you enjoyed that list of top 10 best Genesis games of all time to celebrate the Sega Genesis's 35th birthday.